All right, my friends, we've got a quick stream in store for today. This assignment was a little bit different, and I guess it didn't connect as much as the other ones do, but that's all right. We got to try something new every once in a while. So as you can see, we only have 6 submissions here, so we'll get through them pretty quickly. This is going to be a very fast stream. Hopefully you guys are doing well. And yeah, we'll just jump right into it right off the bat here. 6 submissions. And so yeah, the idea behind this assignment was to hopefully help you guys learn how to add sounds into beats and do so in a balanced way. So I gave you 3 different loops. We can play them here. If I just pull it up, give me 1 second. So these are the 3 different loops.
Idea 1.
So a trappy beat here with just a piano. So it's got the drums in it and a piano and the 808. So room to put some sounds in the background and whatnot.
Idea 2.
This one was pretty much just a bass line and some chords. Lots of ideas that you can add for the drums, as well as additional instrumentation on top. And then the final idea.
Idea 3.
Drums plus a very strange synth. This one's more so open for the bass and the low end. Nobody you know, how's it going? Since this is gonna be, I'll just close that down. Since this is gonna be a quick stream, very laid back one, feel free to, ask me any questions that you might have or anything that's on your mind. This stream's probably going to be less than an hour at this rate. So, yeah, if you guys have anything on your mind you want to ask me or whatever, feel free. And we can just start spinning. I think we're good to start. P-Dub NC's first. By the way, I also want to mention, like I said, I want to try something new with this assignment. Maybe it's a little bit too weird and not as fun. Fair enough. For the beat reconstructions, me and the team have been talking about doing like we don't have an actual word for it yet, but a sort of quiz instead of a reconstruction. We'll see how you guys like that. So we'll present to you a bunch of like different audio. So it'll be like, here's a before, here's an after. What's the difference? Nobody knows says, glad to be here. Had the most problems with number 1. Yeah, I think with number 1, it was probably the most full of the 4. So I wouldn't expect like a huge additional sound to come in. But I think there's still room for some smaller details with that idea. But yeah, with beat reconstructions, we're going to be trying something new, I think, for the month of August, where we do like a little quiz that helps train your ear and hopefully helps you understand like what's the before and after between the 2 different audios files that we send, and there'll be a little right or wrong, and you can sort of quiz yourself. So we'll see how you guys feel about that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's dive into P-Dub NC's submission here. All right, so that was P-dubs. I don't even have much time to write my thoughts down. Sherby, how's it going? Hopefully you guys are doing well. We have a quick stream today. There weren't that many submissions with this assignment. Probably not as creative and fun, so that is perhaps why. But yeah, with P-dubs submissions here, we'll start with the first one. So again, this was the trap idea that already had the piano, all the drums, and the low end. So I guess what you can hear is P-Dub tried to add some more drums in, maybe to change the color of them. I think that is a fine idea there. I think trying to add your own low end here was probably something that was unnecessary. You can hear we have additional bass notes that come in around the 808. It sounds like, I don't know if the BPM was changed, but yeah, with that huge 808 that takes up so much of the low end, it's sort of not necessary to fill up the low end even more. Sherby agrees that idea number one was the hardest. Sharp Vision, how's it going? And so yeah, I think with this idea, what I did, I'm not sure if, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find that beat here. So I guess the idea here is that, you have these very transient sounds in the beat, which is the drums are trap drums, very, very transient sounds. We have a piano, which inherently is a little bit more transient. And so with this, what I did was I added a very sustained sound, a sort of vocal, and had it a little bit washed out. I probably could have mixed that beat a little bit better. But I think just thinking about the shapes of the sounds, that's what I was more so thinking with this beat and what that could help guide you with your decision making. I think a very simple sort of like sustained sound could have been something that fits a little bit more easily. Sherby says, I couldn't tell if they changed the BPM, but the bass definitely makes it feel more muddy. Yeah, I think this is another thing of like, always asking yourself, what does this beat actually need to sound more full? And I think with the first idea here, at least, I don't think that an additional bass sound would have helped the beat sound more full. With the second beat here, I think the same thing happened. The bass was what was added here, and the BPMs didn't line up here either, I think. So we have multiple basses, and the BPM just does not align. So that's something else maybe we should talk about, which is how to get your BPMs to align when you're using samples. That's something that's not covered in the course, so that's probably my bad. But yeah, you want to make sure, when you get your sample in or your loop, make sure to use the BPM counter along with it. Just set the BPM first. That would have really helped make things a lot easier. In terms of what the added instruments are, I think the bass, once again, not really necessary. The drums in here, I think, were a good fit. It would have been nicer if they were a little bit easier to hear and like understand what the idea was if they were on time. But in terms of the actual textures, I think they were fine. And that sort of piercing bell sound, again, I think that does fit just because the instrumentation here is this sort of washed out chord progression. So having something a little bit more high end fits perfectly. I think the issue here is just the BPMs didn't line up. Yeah, I like the selection of the drums and the sounds that were chosen. I just wished that the beat was actually sort of aligned. And the last idea here, the same issue with the BPMs. I think what Sherby mentioned here is on point. Nobody says I just use the voice to see what sounded normal. I didn't cut it, so I used 98 BPM. What Sherby says is definitely need to break it up to figure out the 3 different BPMs. Yeah, I think maybe that's another reason why it was a little bit difficult. I did do all 3 different ideas in different BPMs, which is why I recommended you might need to cut it up. But that's my bad. Maybe I made this way too complicated and annoying to do this challenge. But yeah, once again here, the BPMs are like the issue here. It sounds like the idea wasn't necessarily built around what was already here. The original idea was just sort of ducked down in volume, and P-Deb sort of just added his own beat and ideas around it as opposed to working, or sorry, on top of it, as opposed to adding around it. I think that sort of buzzsaw lead in here actually is a pretty good idea. I think that probably would have fit with the beat. Okay, once again, a lot of sounds that probably don't need to be added to get the beat to sound full were used. So I think that's just my goof up here with how complicated I made this. That makes sense now on why it felt like the BPM was changed on yours. No time to finish the assignment says 260, but I like the concept of the assignment and the 3 different styles. So it was definitely a different type of challenge. Yeah, I think this is maybe just a little bit too complicated. Maybe if I just gave one beat idea that's very stripped down and give you guys like fundamentally a sample, that could be a better idea. I was able to get 2 of the 3 and then my computer crashed. Oof. Sorry to hear that. Let's move on to the next one here. Let's see what Sherb came up with. Sherb is the winner. Finally got selected here. So let's see what Sherb did.
Ideal. Idea. Idea.
I've been dealing with transitioning to a new laptop myself. Really hasn't been the funnest of things. That is annoying having to transfer your plugins over. But yeah, with these 3 beats, so we have Sherb mentioning earlier on that he struggled with the first idea. So I think once again, like I mentioned with the last idea or the last submission by P-Dub, the thinking was for the first one, think about shape. You have a lot of sounds in these beats or in that first idea that are very plucky and very transient.
Ideal.
So we have like a very plucky guitar here. So I think that one didn't really gel with the idea, but I think the sound that came in later, that sort of pad that came in, I think that works a bit better.
Idea.
I think the ideas in this one were very, very on point with the aesthetics. Those vocals sound awesome. That sax on point. Feels very old school. I just wish the drums were a little bit more heavy and upfront. They feel very washed out. But yeah, the patterns that were built there, the sounds that were used, where they sat, very, very on point. So I think that was really, really well done. Just the drums there, I would like a little bit more juice on them. I just went and got a new Mac. Transferring the Waves license has been the worst. Everything else has been easy. Hasn't Waves like really goofed up in the last couple months? Like, didn't they make everything a subscription or something? I remember seeing everyone was angry at them. Smooth sax sounds on the second one, says 260. Number 2 is the easiest. Yeah, number 2 had probably the most amount of space, making it the easiest. I probably should have had that as the first idea. And then the third one. I think that sound that came in there was perfectly on point. I think you're doing a good thing of just adding bass. That was fundamentally what was like missing with this. But that cool synth sound that you had that came in. That was really awesome. Fits very well. So like using that as a more of like the POI for the beat and having that play a little bit more often would have been cool. But yeah, I think the sounds that you added in here are on point. I think everything that you used for that beat, the sort of idea that you had there, worked very well. I think, yeah, you're on point with 2 and 3. I think just like you mentioned, the first one was the toughest one. Those are my saxes from my boom bap box. Excellent, excellent. I think I lowered the drums a little bit too much on number 2. Yeah, I think everything else, you're on point there. I think everything else fit perfectly. I don't think I'll be able to find what the hell did I do with that beat. Because I basically took like little weird beat ideas that I came up with and then used these for... this is the beat here. So again, I probably could have cleaned it up a little bit better, but I think your idea and what I did here were very, very similar. Just a lot of cool, unique sounds in the background, adding like a thick, big bass. And so I think we're on the same page there. It was a struggle trying to figure out if I was adding too much or too little. Yeah, I could have, me personally, I could have cleaned up that beat that I just played you a little bit better, but I think fundamentally the choices and the ideas were there. So yeah, awesome job there. 4 beats left only. We're getting through these very quickly. Let's see what Cora came up with. He's known for adding sounds that sound really unique and interesting, but he mentions as well that he struggles with sampling, so we'll see how that fares.
Idea 1. Idea 2. Idea 3.
All right, with these beats here, I think with the first idea, I think you did a good job of choosing the right sound here in terms of the shape. Once again, the idea has a lot of plucky sounds, so a nice sustaining sound would have fit better.
Idea
And I think
1.
that's what Cora does. Like we have this sound that's sort of pushed in the background. It has a very, very long tail. I think maybe controlling just how much of that pluck in the very beginning dominates, because it does feel like it does get in the way a little bit. I think pushing the sound a little bit into the back a little bit more and having it sound like a smaller detail could have been a little bit of a better balance, just because, like I mentioned, with this first idea, the beat was like almost completely done. It was just like a small amount of detail and space that could have been added. So I think the actual decisions here were actually on point in terms of what type of sound. Just a small little adjustment to make the sound fit a little bit better into the beat could have been helpful. Number 2, though, was on point. Drums were great. All the sounds were very, very played into the aesthetic very well. Very floaty. I love that arpeggiating synth there. So yeah, I think idea number 2, just like you guys mentioned, was the one that was the easiest to work with, and I think allowed for the most ideas to be added. And I think Cora did a great job of adding his own ideas there as well. With the third one,
Idea 3.
I feel like this one was a little bit of a mess. It just felt like there was a lot of movement. The drums in here are very, very particular with the pattern already, very like unusual. The synth is also a lot of movement. And I think just with the amount of movement and like the complexity of the patterns that were added here, it made it feel a little bit overly chaotic. I think just simplifying a lot of the ideas. With the third idea as well, I think this was another one that was very, very like full already, and just a small amount of detail, sounds coming in and out here and there and a little in the background was what was needed. So yeah, I think this is my goof up. I probably should have gave you guys more open ideas, something that was more easily workable and to add on to. So yeah, I think this is my error here. Apologies, guys. So let's do the final 3 here. We've got Houdini is submitting here. Let's see what Houdini came up with. And I guess the thing that I've just realized now is that like if an issue comes up and there's something that doesn't really work, it's probably going to be the exact same issue over and over again with every beat. So it's not as helpful with the criticism. Like I tell you basically the first time, like what the approach should be typically. Not the most interesting stream to watch. I apologize.
Idea 2. Idea 3.
MCI, how's it going? Crowtown, good to see you. All good, just different type of challenge assignment. Was more of figuring things out rather than just purely creating. For sure, I think this is a little bit more like analytical, not as creativity based, more so focused on like practice and skill, or skill development, I should say. Once you get past the initial frustration, things start to come together slowly. That number 2, I like the different bits, but they're out of sync timing wise with each other. Yeah, I think with Houdini's beats here are the additional ideas. I think there's some good decision making. So with the biggest issue with these seem to be timing. Yeah, I think I should have probably given the BPM information. That might have been a good idea. So yeah, with the first one here, what I like is the balance once again. So we have something that's more sustained, and the idea, the pattern is simple. Again, with the beat, we have the sort of more complex, higher movement with the piano pattern. So coming up with something that's a little bit more simple would be a good idea, and I think that's what Houdini does here. We basically have detail and like something that sounds a little more ethereal. Like that vocal sample that's very washed out. I just think in terms of the balance, that could have been something that could have been a little bit executed a little bit better. It sounds like the volume of the beat was very, very low, and these sounds that were added were very dominant and very upfront. Say, like I mentioned, that first idea, it's already like almost completely done already. And so adding something into the background, something that's a little bit less forward and upfront would be the play there. So while the shapes of the sounds and the patterns that were built were probably on point with this idea, I think just where they sat in the beat probably could have been adjusted. For beat idea number 2, once again, like the BPM is not on sync. Red Octane, how's it going? We're getting through the beats here. Not that many submissions. We only had 6 total. We've gotten through 4 of them. So this is going to be a very quick stream, so you can go back to sleep soon. Do not worry. What keys are each of the beats in? I have no idea. Maybe that could have been something I should have added as well. But yeah, with this one, I think the drum selection was on point here. Once again, it's just the sounds and the patterns weren't synced up to the actual BPM of the core idea. Yeah, I think this could have been like a very smooth sounding beat here. The drum pattern was very upfront, very present. So I think that he did a good job there. I think with the horn, that could have used a little bit of processing to push it back, I think. Cora says, I felt idea 1 and 3 were very easy to figure out the BPM with a BPM tap counter on my phone. 2 was definitely odd. I felt like 126 initially, then I realized it's 82. Finally got a play after 3 or 4 assignments. Yeah, John did get selected finally. This hits hard. I love the trumpets. Yeah, I think with the trumpets, a little bit more layering could have been nice, but I think the idea of using a trumpet, bringing in some brass, I think it does work aesthetically with this beat idea for sure. Maybe a little bit of reverb just to make it sound a little bit more integrated into the beat. But yeah, like the sound selection, I think some of the ideas and the way the patterns are built were on point. I just think, once again, yeah, it's my bad. I didn't tell you the guys the BPM, and there are 3 different BPMs for 3 different ideas. So I think that is something that could have been helped the idea come together a little bit more. And with beat number 3, so once again, BPM thing again, but I think in terms of the actual decision making here, this beat was also, this beat idea was also pretty full. And so using smaller little sounds to come in and out to make the beat sound a little bit more full could have helped. And I think that's exactly what Houdini did with the sound selection and the choices here. Once again, the BPM and where the actual sounds sit in terms of the space, I think could have been controlled a little bit better. I think the additional sounds that were added were a little bit high in volume. And I think the major thing with this idea was that it lacked a low end presence. And so I think that could have helped the beat here sound a little bit more full. It didn't sound like bass was added. And once again, like the pattern that I provided with this idea, pretty complex, has a very strange rhythm. And so you don't necessarily need like this very elaborate low end bass pattern. I think exactly what Sherby did with his submission, just like very simple bass notes is enough to like make the low end sound full. So I think overall, with this, the challenge, Red Octane has it. Thank you very much for that. I first picked a sax but took it out. Wait, what's going on here? I was on a day trip with my girlfriend yesterday and proposed. Whoa! Red Octane. Congratulations, man. That's big news. There's a love in the air here. I'm very happy for you and very proud of you, my friend. Hopefully we see some Cora Jr. beats coming up soon, maybe. Get some baby type beats. Put that baby to sleep with some lullaby type beats. That's awesome, man. Very fun. So yeah, with Houdini, I think Houdini's showing some really good decision making here in terms of the types of sounds to add and the way they integrate with the rest of the beats. I think just volume control and also thinking about what's always required in terms of the frequency space is always important. MC, I just got married in December. Whoa. I'm Houdini. I know Houdini. I know who you are. He got the baby. So yeah, I think I was also saying that with idea number 3, the synth is so weird and so like fast moving that you don't need a very complicated bass line. So I don't feel as though with idea number 1 and 3, I think just small details would have helped the beat sound a little bit more full, which is probably not a good selection on my part. I should have chose something that's a little bit more simple. Name him Homelander. Why? You're going to be sampling Kids Bop in a few years. True enough. Baby Shark type beat. All right, 2 submissions left to go. Let's listen to Layen's submission first. And then we will end with Laundry Pile. Yeah. Here we go. What's happening here? Where's idea number 2? There we go. Interesting. Then we'll find that idea 3. Interesting. The Boys. I'll have to check the stream later again. Number 1 is out of key. That silence is intense. Number 2, I like those strings. As John mentioned, slightly out of key for number 1. I also felt the added sound that took up the space, same space as the piano already in it. Or I'd like to see some higher frequency sounds. Maybe just some timing pattern adjustments needed on number 2. So yeah, with number 1, I think the biggest issue with 3 are really being out of key. So yeah, with pattern or idea number 1, I think the first synth that comes in actually really works well. So it's a very simple idea. This sound here. It's sitting in the background. It's not doing anything that's too complicated. And I think that idea works and integrates well. I just think the second sound, once it comes in, it just feels like a little bit too much. So I think it should have been either one or the other and make that like what you add, maybe do like a back and forth. That could have been an idea. But in terms of where those sounds sit and like the shape of them, like I mentioned, the sound's very plucky, very transient. And so coming up with sustained sounds that sit a little bit more further in the back, I think that's exactly what Leon's doing here. So I think a lot of good decision making here in terms of the actual sounds. But again, like this beat was very, very close to being finished in full. So I think just adding too much here, maybe doing a little bit too little, might have been the mistake. With idea 2, it sounds like they tried to structure it into a 3/4 beat. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So yeah, the drums and the string pattern are structured in 3/4 when the fundamental idea is 4/4. So that's why it feels like there's a little bit of a weird timing thing happening with this. But yeah, the drums, they work aesthetically with the actual beat, this sort of more lo-fi boom bap drums. I think the violin or the string there could have used a little bit more work. It sounds like a little bit thin. I think the core idea of like using a string to make the make that like the sort of dominant, the POI basically, it's not a bad one at all. I think it just needs a little bit more work in making it sound a little bit more full, a little bit more natural. 3 felt a little off with this timing too. Maybe the ARP type sound was too slow. Something was a little bit off. The synth was solid for sure, says Cora. With number 3. So Lane identified that the low end was missing. Came up with a really cool low end pattern here. I like just how washy and like up and down it is. There's a slight BPM issue, it sounds like, but I think there's a lot of good decision making here. But once again, I think like the sounds that were added here, where they sit, it's actually really on point. I just think that with the idea here, it's also pretty full. That main synth that's in the beat that I included, it's very dominant. It has a very particular pattern. So I think just coming up with simple ideas in the background could have helped. Maybe just stripping away some of these additional sounds and patterns that were added here. Maybe just keeping that plucked sound, or maybe that more washy sort of lead pad thing. I think one or the other could have been enough. That vocal, I'm not sure what that is, but yeah, I think this shows a lot of good decision making. I think just reeling it back and not worrying about doing too much, that's always going to be key. The neat thing about less submissions is that you can go more in depth with criticism, which means more to learn from. Yeah, I agree. I just think the reason why there's less submissions is because my goof up. I probably should have used more, just better core ideas that allowed you guys to do a little bit more. And the BPMs probably what threw a lot of people off as well. I should have gave you guys the BPM information. I struggled to get a bass fitting into the sounds on idea 3. I really like the bass they added. Yeah, I think I really like this bass as well. Really cool idea to use here, and I think it did a good job of making the beat sound full. I just think the beat overall didn't need as many patterns as Leon added. So yeah, don't ever worry about, doing too little. I think just making sure the beat sounds balanced and on point is what's most important. We have the last submission here. I was talking to the chat at the very beginning, Red Octane, how we're gonna do our training idea here for the month of August. We're gonna try something different compared to the usual beat reconstructions that we do, and we are going to have a sort of a quiz test that we're going to construct, or I should say Red Octane and Kerasama are going to construct, where we give you like a piece of audio and then the audio is altered in some small way, and then there's going to be like a quiz of like what's different between A and B, and ideally it helps you sort of train your ear and understand what certain differences or what certain tools sound like when it comes to like compression or what have you. Maybe some EQing that can help you really train what's happening. That poster behind you is cool. Thank you. That's the J Dilla poster, I believe. That it is. Yes, it is. I've had that since like the very beginning of my beat making journey. That was like in 2013 or something. It's I bring it everywhere. I put it right by my beat making station wherever I go, and it's helped me out. I personally enjoy finding the key at BPM of ideas. There are plenty of sounds out there that people don't label samples, or sampling odd records aren't labeled, so it's a great skill. Yeah, I think it is definitely a useful skill. I think I probably could have just given the actual file separately. That might have been a good idea as well. TuneBat is a cheat code. What is TuneBat? Oh, that's probably the thing that automatically tells you the BPM. Yeah, I think if I just gave you guys each file separately and you could have like uploaded into one of those services, that might have made it a little bit easier to work with as well. The fact that it started off with like idea 1 and then it played the beat partway through, it probably made it a little bit harder to actually manage and work with. So yeah, I don't know. We might try this idea once again, maybe months down the road, and I'll retool it and present it in a little bit more of an easy way, give you guys a little bit more better information and use better core samples and ideas that help you be a little bit more creative, because I do think idea number 1 and 3 are probably a little bit too full. Maybe if I just gave you the synth for number 3 and just the pianos without the drums or something. Yeah, I don't know. We'll try this again, but hopefully a better version of this. Laundry pile is last, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Yep, laundry pile gets the last spot. And let's take a listen. I know this has been a very short stream. I apologize once again for my gaffe here, but you know what? It's good to try things that are new and learn from them. This was a learning experience. So let's take a listen to the last submission here.
Idea 1. Idea 2. Idea 3.
All right. With laundry piles, I think idea 1 was probably one of the better, more balanced submissions for that idea. Red Octane says, I really like the sounds used in number 1, but feel they are too loud and upfront with how dense the idea is. Having 2 different keys is nice. Number 1 has some cool ideas, maybe a little bit more depth in the sound additions. Cool horns. 2 was a bop. Number 2 is cool, like the horns and the little background vocals. So yeah, let's jump into 1 again.
Idea 1.
So yeah, very simple pattern, a good amount of reverb added onto it. I think to your guys' point, just reducing the volume a little bit more, like this beat already has pianos in it. That's not to say you can't have multiple pianos, but just taking this layer and making it a little bit more secondary by just reducing the volume, I think could have been a small little adjustment. But I think the actual pattern that was built and the decisions to use a lot of reverb and make it a little bit more tail heavy, not as transient and plucky as the main piano, makes it sound different enough. Yeah, again, simple pattern. So I think this is a really, really good job. A lot of good decision making with this one. Yeah, just bringing down the volume was a simple adjustment there. I think number 2. I think, yeah, the drums are on point. I like that little vocal sample. The sounds that were used, unique and really work with the idea. I think with the actual idea, the core idea that I sent over, it has a lot of room to position your own sound as like the main lead, the POI of the beat. And I think maybe just taking some of these sounds, removing what they are with like reverb and depth control. And it sounds like there's a little bit of stereo shifting as well. I think whatever was chosen here to be the main sound could have just been a little bit more upfront and made a little bit more dominant. Which sounds like it probably should have been that brass, but yeah, just removing how much reverb there is and just removing the stereo, leaning to the right there. And just making it a little bit more central and upfront. Could have had a nice balance.
Idea 3.
And idea 3. I'm sort of on the fence with this one. I think it sounds like there were some bass added. A lot of the sounds are very, very like dominant and very upfront, and it sounds like the main idea was like really brought down in volume. While I do think these pieces are interesting, I think the overall balance of the beat is just a little bit off. It sounds like all the sounds and noises are very dominant, but like the drums have basically disappeared. Like a lot of the sounds that were added were much louder than the drums, and typically with like hip hop beats, the drums need to be very dominant. Yeah, this idea was just very hard to work with. I think that's my own fault. The pattern that was built on top, very like fast moving, just to the same degree as the pattern that was given in the sample. So I think a little bit more simplification could have been nice. Just a lot of dryness as well. Yeah, just a very challenging idea here. So I think in the future we will retool this idea and hopefully I will improve it for you guys. I can't begin to guess what this last one's called, but it sounds so cool. I really dig all 3. In the future, acapella challenges, would it be okay to use your own vocals? Yeah, we can do that. I think we just did one of those a couple of weeks ago. Wait a minute, was I supposed to announce the winner for best beat, or did I do that last time? No, I did that last time, right? So it's going to be this one plus the one before it. Yeah, I'll have to add that onto my list. Don't see why not. That's mainly to teach you how to add the right amount of sounds and not overproduce. Yeah, I think I definitely agree. that wouldn't be a problem. It was smart to turn on the rest of the Idea 3 to be able to add stuff in, but I feel like using a frequency splitter to be able to add keep the drums loud would have worked well. Yeah, it's definitely a great idea. That's a tool that I've been using a lot recently, using stem splitters. Really helps. I was sweeping my floors last night, and I think there was a dead wasp. That is not great. I think you did it last time. Okay, so yeah, it was a Rob that got announced last time. So the next stream is going to be the announcement. But basically, with these submissions here, these aren't really full beats, so it's basically only going to be chosen from the assignments from the last submission. So yeah, I'll take a listen to those, and we'll do the announcement next time. Cora is going to be building our quiz, which is fun. Cora, I'll talk to you this week and get that website built for you. But yeah, thank you guys for at least giving this assignment idea a shot. I know it wasn't the best executed on my end. I think I have some ideas for how to do this a little bit better next time. But yeah, I think the core sort of lesson and the skill that I'm trying to help you guys develop is really important in terms of how to add sounds into a beat that function and actually sit well. So yeah, I'll keep that in mind and think about it next time. Thank you guys for hanging out. Very short stream here. I'll be around on my computer for a little bit, so if you guys want to hit me up on the Discord, if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys in 2 weeks. I have the next assignment already put together, and I think it's going to be one that's really fun. Let me know what you guys think about this idea, actually. So I'm going to give you guys a mixed bag of sounds. It's 25 to 30 sounds right now. You know, the core drum sounds plus a few bunch of different instruments and bass sounds. And you guys have to use these 25 to 30 sounds and make a beat out of it. You cannot use outside sounds at all. You can use effects and stuff, but you are limited to these 25 ingredients. It's basically like, Chef's Kitchen or whatever that show's called, where they are stuck with the ingredients and they have to make them. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that idea. Kudos on those that took this on. It was a struggle at times, but I very much enjoyed it. It was awesome being able to work with multiple styles at once. Made me think differently. Yeah, I think just my deliverance on this one wasn't on point, so I think the next time we do this, I'll split the ideas into 3 different ones and make it a little bit more accessible and easier to use. And yeah, I'm totally down. Sounds great. Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited about this idea. I think this one's a really fun one. Love it. Awesome. All right. Sounds interesting. Sounds like fun. Awesome. So I'll probably send the email out and make that update on Tuesday. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for popping by. Hopefully you have a good remainder of your Sunday. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.